to another episode of Let's Talk Money with Friends. Every Wednesday, we have the privilege to come before you. And I always say, it doesn't matter if you're at home, if you're in your car, or if you are, with a friend, by yourself, you are watching, and we are grateful for you. But tonight, we want to continue our conversation that we had last week. We had a great conversation last week about your mortgage options matter, because we know that when it's time to achieve this ultimate American dream of home ownership, many of the families that we are talking to right now cannot do it out of pocket. They don't have the cash in their bank accounts where they could just go write a check. They have to look at financing, and the way you go about doing it really matters. So that's why tonight we're gonna continue this conversation, and we have a great guest with us. We have somebody who's from a great organization that you all should know about, especially if this is your first time, if you're a first-time home buyer or first generation home buyer. And the topic of tonight's show is community lending, community support at MAHA matters, because you need to know about this organization. And so without further ado, what I'm gonna do is give our guest tonight. We have Antonina on the phone with us here. She's really I've been having conversation with her this week, and I'm very impressed by what I've heard, and I would like to give her an opportunity today to really share everything she knows about this organization and what you can do to better position yourself for homeownership. So yes, Antonina, please welcome and introduce yourself quickly.
Thank you so much. My name is Antonina Fenelon. I am a stash program manager and lottery agent at MAHA, the Massachusetts Affordable Housing Alliance. I'm so glad to be here with you all to talk about all the things that MAHA does for the community, especially when it comes to affordable housing and home ownership, but also just to talk about some of the opportunities that are available to those who are looking to be first-time home buyers. I'll be sure to drop some gems, giving you some tips on how to be able to, save towards your goal of home ownership.
Yes, thank you so much for being on the show. Since last week, we've been talking about this topic because we know, I've always said that, it's a dream. We all know it's a dream, but it can become the nightmare without the right team. That's why last week the emphasis was on building a team around you that could help you with that process. So of course, we know MAHA stands for Massachusetts Affordable Housing Alliance. For those of us who've never heard of, for those who are watching who've never heard about MAHA, can you please tell us a little bit more about the organization itself?
Sure. MAHA, as you mentioned, Massachusetts Affordable Housing Alliance, is located at 1803 Dorchester Ave here in Dorchester. We have a lovely building that we own here. We were founded in 1985, so over 36 years ago. And our goal really is to educate and mobilize across Massachusetts to break down barriers to affordable and sustainable homeownership. We came together to stand with those that are affected by bank redlining, unfair housing practices, to people of color, and affordability, who had affordability concerns, And so we do not only home buyers education, homeowners education, but also community organizing. So a lot of our graduates who participate in the classes then become organizers that are standing before our state legislators, standing before developers and asking for what the needs are of the community when it comes to home ownership. So really excited to be with you all today about, and talking about home ownership.
Yeah, definitely. It's so important. I know last week we'd mentioned that when someone is ready to buy a home, typically it's because, hey, I've been paying rent, I'm tired, and I need to do something different. So I would like to know, because in terms of approval and being declined, do you work with families so that you can position them and educate them? I know the first time home buyer class is big with MAHA. So can you explain, someone who's looking, who's afraid, who's thinking maybe I'm not gonna be able to approve. What are some of the barriers that they have to overcome in order for them to position themselves for an approval to one of your lenders? And we're gonna talk about some of the programs after that.
Yeah, certainly. So, MAHA is definitely, we call it the Home Buyers University. We have a first-time home buyer course that participants can register for on our website, mahahome.org. It is a 12-hour course, right? And so it's really about dedicating the time and investing, because, you know, they say knowledge is power, right? So the more that you're able to educate yourself about the home buying process, the tips that you need, the team that you need to build about the home buying process is going to enable you, help you feel empowered to be able to go out there and have conversations confidently, being able to make an informed decision about the mortgage product that you choose ultimately and the path that you're going to go down. So we do talk a lot about what the process looks like. We talk about the team members that you need to build in order for you to be able to ultimately close on a home. But also we do talk about saving and budgeting. We talked about the sustainability of home ownership. We also offer the homeowner 201 class, which is our landlord class. Many participants are looking to become landlords, owning multifamily homes for passive income. But the most important thing, first and foremost, is to make sure that you understand that going into multifamily home ownership is basically starting a business. And so being able to know and hear from an attorney about what does that multifamily home ownership look like, what commitment are you making, the business that you're starting, and what that really means for you as the borrower, right? You're working and you're making that commitment with the bank, and being able to afford those payments each and every month is very important. So amongst the education, you know, MAHA has been instrumental in creating the One Mortgage, the MHP One Mortgage, and the One Plus Boston. And those are two great mortgage products that are available in the state of Massachusetts for first-time, low to moderate income households. Really to be able to get a mortgage that you're able to pay monthly with no PMI. There is interest rate buy downs that are embedded within those mortgage products. And so we find those to be the most affordable. They are owner occupant loans, which means that you can't, you know, have the house with that mortgage and then be able to move out of it, right? But it's really to help participants and families move from renting to home ownership and whatever vehicle that means. So whether it's condo, you know, single family, multifamily, even if you decided to go with a lottery home, those mortgage products are designed to help you maintain affordable payments throughout the life of that loan.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because we know that, you know, because we in Boston, we are in Massachusetts, and we know prices are high everywhere. We have a housing crisis all over, but in Boston in particular, right? So how like some of the products that you just mentioned, like the One Mortgage and the One Mortgage and the One Plus Boston program, are they available for everyone in everywhere, or is it just a Boston or the Massachusetts as a state only?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the way that I like to describe it is the MHP One Mortgage is the mother of the One Plus Boston. So the One Mortgage is available to anyone that lives within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, where the One Plus Boston is the daughter. And so that is available only within the city of Boston. And so the One Plus Boston does allow for a little bit more assistance available throughout the city. And that assistance is down payment and closing costs. And the One Mortgage also does have down payment assistance and closing costs embedded in them. But what participants on the call today do need to be reminded of is that there are income limits to any assistance that you ever want to get. You have to qualify for the assistance, which means your credit has to be in good standing, which means your income has to be in good standing. You know, they do use the 2022 AMI, which is the area median income, to determine folks' eligibility. So it's really important for you to take a first-time homebuyer class, learn the language, the vocabulary that is talked about in the industry, and then talk with a lender. You don't have to necessarily just send all your financial documents over to a lender to have these preliminary conversations, but have a conversation, get personable with the lender to see if they are going to be able to help you beyond just sending you a pre-approval, because it's really important that you have someone that is standing in your corner who can educate you along the way, because it can definitely be a stressful process.
Not only stressful, it could also become a costly process if you don't do it the right way. We always believe the best way to do things is to do it the right way the first time. So basically tonight we're having this conversation with MAHA, which is a great organization that we have here in Massachusetts, and it's the Massachusetts Affordable Housing Alliance. And this conversation, the reason we wanted to have that is because we know, again, homeownership is most people, I don't know, very few folks, actually I've met some in the community who've said that, I never thought about buying a home. I've been renting all my life. And part of it is because they don't know some of the benefits of home ownership. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but we wanted to continue with this conversation because we know, again, it's such a dream, but this dream can become a nightmare if you don't have the right type of resources around you. You need to know where to go, and you need to start building your team the right way from the start. So MAHA is definitely a place to go if you are in Boston or if you are in Massachusetts. This is an organization that you can go to get the support that you need. Now, again, we had mentioned that it's so expensive in Boston itself. The city of Boston is so expensive. I know folks who have been displaced out of Boston. They lived in Boston for 30, 40 years, and now they're looking to purchase a home. They have to go outside of. Do you have programs that could still help them? Even though, I remember we talked about the One Plus Boston.
Yes. Yeah, so an amendment that has been made to the One Plus Boston is that if you were living in Boston over the last 2 years, you could, and you've been displaced, that's what it's called, then you could use the One Plus Boston mortgage product. What I forgot to mention was that the One Plus Boston is not provided by all lenders. We have 7 participating lenders, and you can go out to the mhp.net website, and you'll be able to see the 7 participating lenders that are taking applications for the One Plus Boston. And now you can imagine that if there's only 7 banks and everybody's chasing after it, there is a little bit of a wait time in order for you to qualify for this mortgage product. So, do be patient with the process, but it's a phenomenal mortgage product. And, if you have been displaced, you can utilize it to be able to qualify for a home within the city of Boston. And also if you work in the city of Boston, you've been displaced, but you work in the city of Boston, you can use this mortgage product.
Yeah. So definitely, in essence, there are resources available for you. You don't have to be pulling your hair or going to a local big bank or calling, last week we talked about the importance of not getting online, trying to get a pre-approval online, because at the end of the day, we'll talk about that a little bit later. When you find yourself in a hardship situation, you want to know that you are dealing with people who know your name and they are interested in keeping you in your homes. So we know that this work that you do, MAHA, and also the work cannot be done without the support of local elected officials. So can you tell us a little bit about this relationship or the alliance that MAHA and the mayor of Boston, Michelle Hu, just committed a large investment to help shrink racial wealth gap for Black and brown communities. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, our graduates at MAHA do turn into be our MAHA part of our organizing team. And so our organizers are amazing. They have been pioneering this campaign to make sure that we're able to really shrink this racial wealth gap. There was a report that was done not too long ago that said that the value of a Black family is $8 and the value of a white family is $250, right? And that is because of wealth. That is because of home ownership.
250,000.
Yeah. So it's really important that folks understand that that gap is due to home ownership, right? And so when you acquire wealth, when you acquire an asset as large as a home, you're able to account for that in equity, right? When you're paying down your mortgage, you build equity in your home. And so Michelle Wu basically did commit $106 million to affordable home ownership. And our graduates and the people that work on our home buyers union are able to speak to legislators, asking them to commit to the STASH program, commit funds to affordable housing and building more homes in the state of Massachusetts. And that's key for us to be able to kind of shrink the gap, but also be able to build more homes in the state.
Yeah, definitely. So that's why it's important when you are ready to become a homeowner, you also have to think about becoming a community leader. Because at the end of the day, this is a long-term investment. In order for you to be able to keep it, you need the support of the community and our elected officials who are willing to stand behind you. Again, I'm glad you mentioned the wealth gap, how our Black and brown communities in Boston, in the greater Boston area, I think this study was done by the Federal Reserve, and it was done several years ago, about 8-9 years ago. And it came out, it was surprising to some, but not so surprising to us, because of the fact that the Black and brown families' wealth at $8 net worth at $8 versus the non or the white families' net worth over, the average over $250,000. So it's a big deal. That's why it's so important for me, who knows how important this is, to have this conversation about home ownership, because we know this wealth gap, like you said, exists because of the fact that home ownership is not being done right, hasn't been done right in our community, and we need to educate our folks so that they can do it right, because we believe that it's important to it's important to finance, but it's also so important to be able to keep your home. So
and the wealth gap is not just a matter of today's history, right? This is long. This is decades of history, that redlining, where mortgage lenders and insurance companies literally put a red line around certain communities and stated that these communities are not to be lended to. Insurance companies did the same thing, and most of these communities were the Mattapian, Roxbury, Dorchesters, right, enabling them from being able to acquire mortgages. And so decades of that happening, most of the time, these individuals weren't able to get mortgages. And so that's kind of what leads to it. And it's being perpetuated year after year through different mechanisms. And so, it's, again, something that we need to combat. And we're doing all that we can at MAHA to educate, to mobilize, so that we can have more homes available for BIPOC individuals. Yeah,
definitely. That's why we're focusing on the team that you need to create around you. Now, we talked about the CHAPA approved agencies. Can we talk about a little bit about that? Because I know I've heard folks say, oh, I've taken the first time home buyer, I've taken it. But if you're not taking it to an approved agency, there are some resources you're not going to be privy to. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, CHAPA is a governing agency located here in Massachusetts. And there are a couple of homebuyer education organizations that are within that, that have the seal of approval to offer these first-time homebuyer courses. And so, I just really encourage folks that if you're taking a first-time homebuyer course and you want to get access to certain resources, like the STASH program that I'll talk about in a few moments, that you do have to take a first-time homebuyer course through a CHAPA approved agency. And that gives them the validity to be able to teach these courses. A lot of the agencies that offer these courses and have the seal of approval are also able to give HUD certified counseling to participants. And so you're getting the real deal pretty much, not to say that when you take these classes by other organizations or realtors that are providing these classes, you're not getting information. You just want to make sure that if you're going to get a certificate and you want to use it for mortgage lending, that it's coming from the right source. And so MAHA does have the seal of approval to teach the first-time homebuyer courses. And we do also offer counseling that's paired with taking our courses.
Yeah, very important. Going back to the wealth gap, I had mentioned earlier that I know folks who've been renting for 40 plus years. Many times, that's why your organization is focusing on first-time home buyers and also first generation, because if your parents didn't have it, I was lucky enough to have had parents ever since I could remember. We had a home, back home in Haiti and also here. So because I was familiar with home ownership, the idea of home ownership came very natural to me, right? But for many families, like the folks that I've spoken to in Boston, who've been living in the same apartment building for 30 plus years, and I was like, how come you never thought about when properties were at $5,000, $10,000, like in the 70s? And they said that, you know what, we never thought about it because this is not something that, I thought I was able to handle. But one lady actually, she broke down and cried, and she said that I had gone to a local bank and asked them about an approval. And they told me I wasn't qualified even before they even looked at my documents. So we know MAHA is trying to make a difference and trying to get folks to educate them, because again, we want to position families so that they can have better opportunities, not only for themselves, but for generations to come. So how do you, the question that I have, like if you have someone right now who's wondering, should I become a homeowner? I've never seen it before. I'm not familiar. Do you want to invite them to come to your office to come and have a conversation to see if at least they qualify to have a conversation and get started with the process?
Absolutely. I tell people all the time that home ownership's achievable, right? You have to know what you can sustain, right? You want to know if you're paying your rent on time, if you're able to manage your bills, if you're able to save and, deal with your expenses in a reasonable manner. Like, I would think that home ownership is for you, but, when you become a homeowner, you become the landlord, right? And so you take on more responsibilities than when you were renting. And so if an individual is able to take on those types of responsibilities, able to kind of put some numbers to those things, like managing repairs, managing, water bills, and, sometimes rents are not doesn't have water bills included, right? And so if you're looking at the expenses that come with home ownership and you're saying to yourself that you can, and your numbers, your debt to income ratio adds up, and how much of a mortgage that you feel comfortable paying every month, then I definitely say that you should, take a first-time home buyer class and meet with a counselor to be able to assess whether or not home ownership is something that's achievable for you. But ultimately, we say that you are the leader of the ship, and so you can change your situation around very quickly if home ownership is something that you want to pursue. It's for everyone.
Yeah, definitely, it's for everyone, and you will have access to information and guidance when you pick up the phone or you go online and set up an appointment with an organization, with MAHA, an organization whose primary vision and mission purpose is to help you find a home that you can finance and keep generationally. So it's very important that we all understand that the purpose, the intent for this show today is to let you know, yes, homeownership is a great thing. We want everybody to achieve that goal. But at the end of the day, you need to have a team of resources around you that will help you keep your home. So then my next question is, we know that life happens, right? Life happens. There are times where it's outside of your control, but other times it is within your control, but life happens. I can think of when I was in banking many years, I would have Mr. and Mrs. Jones or Mrs. Jones coming by herself saying that I'm going through a divorce. I need help. I've had my mortgage for 10 plus years and I cannot afford it anymore because my husband just left or my wife just left. Or I would have someone saying like, I'm going to chemotherapy and our income's gone down. We just need a little bit of help, cushion, so that we can regroup and find a way out of this financial hardship. And other things, other times is like a COVID-19, unexpected. The whole world is shut down, and now your employer is saying stay home. The government is saying stay home, but you're not getting any income coming through. So we know in 2008 we had a mortgage meltdown, predatory lending crisis, and so many families lost their homes. Many of them were Black and brown families who lost everything. I know I can think of several people, but one person that I talk to often who had a home for 17 years and the bank stole it from her, took it from her. So how do you position the people that you work with to, and what resources do you have, mechanism that you have in place to help a family during hardships like such as the one that is mentioned?
We do have foreclosure counseling that's available at MAHA for folks who are experiencing hardships, have gone through foreclosure, or are experiencing current foreclosure. They can reach out to our foreclosure specialist in-house by just calling our number. I'm just going to close the door.
Okay.
Sorry, we just had some guests in the office.
We live. Yes, go ahead.
And so we do have foreclosure counseling, and so individuals can call our office and speak to our foreclosure specialist and express that hardship, and they'll work with you and they'll counsel you through what it means to be going through this, first off, and then also kind of getting down to the nuts and bolts of what steps you might need to take. Ultimately, the loss mitigation department and many mortgage companies are there to help you kind of think of forbearance and things with mitigations. And so you
Is that available for everyone? Is that
You know,
available to everyone or some people?
I would say that the loss mitigation department is available for anyone that has a mortgage. But
Okay.
again, finding a foreclosing agency that, an
Mhm.
agency that has foreclosure counseling is going to be key to being able to walk you through this, right? Because they would know the tricks, they would know the gems, they would know the specific language to utilize to be able to speak to these individuals to make sure that they get you what you need within a timely manner. And so I would say, reaching out, again, we do have that in-house, but whenever you have a hardship, you're experiencing this, it's really important for you to just be real transparent, calling your mortgage company, letting them know that you're experiencing unforeseen circumstances, and either putting a pause on your mortgage or letting them know that there's some income changes. Transparency and honesty, as we say, is really the best way to kind of move forward. Informing them, because again, it is your home, right? It's where you live, it's where you reside with your family. And so informing them so that they can note that on the books, and then being able to work with the counseling agency to help you kind of create a plan as to what you need to do is usually what we, that's how we start the conversation.
Yeah, definitely. It's so important that to take the initiative, right? To be proactive, to pick up the phone and call your bank and tell them, I am experiencing hardship, or I'm about to experience a hardship and I need you to do something about it. And you saying like they have resources in place with the loss mitigation departments that should be looking at everybody's application fairly to make a decision based on what they have in front of them, not based on your race or your cultural backgrounds or your language limitation or your sex or any of that, because we know systemically we've had issues, and that's the reason why in 2008 and beyond, many of the families who lost their hard-earned money and their asset were Black and brown families because of the systemic issues that we've been dealing with for generations. So again, tonight, I wanted to have this conversation because we know that housing is a human right and that people ought to have a place to call their own. And buying a home is the next step, right? Buying a home is the next step where you feel like you want to build community, right? You want to build a community and you want to be part of your community. So lastly, I just want to say how important it is because we said the topic tonight was community support at Maha, So community, why is it important? Like if you're someone who's thinking about purchasing a home, I think we've mentioned that a little bit. Why is it important? You talk about like your organization having, of course, the mortgage counselors, of course, the first-time home buyers, but you have organizers who are educating folks about what's going on in the community so that they can become part of it, because that's your biggest asset. How can you not be involved in what's going on so that you can protect your asset and help other people protect your community members protect theirs? Well, how important it is to be part of community.
Yeah, like you just said, Gabriel, it's really important. Part of the things that we have as well as the home buyer education, the homeowner education as well. Even if you're a homeowner, we offer that homeowner course, and actually it gives you a 5 to 10% discount on your home insurance if you take our 201 or 202 class. It's called a home safe certificate, which you can present to your home insurance company and get a discount. So even if you're a homeowner on the call today and you're like, hey, I could really use that savings, right? Take one of our free classes, our 201 or 202 class, and go ahead and get that certificate. Learn about the different aspects of homeownership. Even if you took a first-time home buyer course last year or years ago, it's important for you to remind yourself of the commitment that you're making, and how to take care of your home and all the things, the nuances that go within it. But additionally, at Maha, one of the ways that we're building community and we're really helping our community is through our STASH program. Our STASH program stands for Saving Towards Affordable, Sustainable Homeownership. And it's a match savings program. We know that financial literacy isn't something that was always taught in schools. And, some people might not have learned about it at home, about saving and budgeting. And a lot of people have screwed up their credit, right, over the years, not knowing how to manage their credit. And so we offer a match savings program. And that program basically was launched in 2019 to really help low to moderate BIPOC individuals, people of all races, to be able to save towards homeownership. And so by participating in our program attending our financial education classes, you would save $2,500 and receive a match of $5,000 to purchase a home in Boston. And so that's really our way of being able to continue our education about the importance of saving, the importance of really building the skills. A lot of people say I save, but it's like, oh, I'll save every other month, or I'll tap into my savings when I have a hardship, right? Really just being able to say, I have to put this money aside. It's only and dedicated for home ownership. I'm not going to touch it. And then I'm going to budget monthly. I'm going to build that habit of looking at my budget, looking at my expenses, and setting goals for my money instead of my money disappearing and going where it wants to go. And so our classes are really educational, they're informative, and also you're a part of a cohort. So you have a cohort of about 50 individuals who are on the same boat as you, trying to save, trying to budget, and trying to buy a home today in today's Massachusetts market. And so by meeting with each other, speaking with each other, you're able to see that you're not alone in this journey. There are thousands of people, millions of people who are trying to buy homes across the nation. And it's hard because of the high increase in rent, the inflation and grocery, the cost of groceries going up. And so we've created this community, this program that is really going to just help people learn the skill and master the skill of saving and budgeting, but also working towards a goal. And that SMART goal is homeownership.
Homeownership, yeah, definitely, because it has so many great benefits. I studied taxation, and I know some of the exclusions and some of the wealth building mechanism that exists within that homeownership program. So it's really important for me that our community, the folks who take the time to watch, viewers who are taking the time to watch this, even now or in the future, they understand that there are resources available. Do not do this by yourself. I don't care how smart you think you are, right?
I always get the question. I always get the question, why do I got to take this class? Because it's good to be informed and informed by people who are trained to educate you on the home buying process. Enough people have bought homes blindly, not having the education, hearing from their, hairdressers and the person at the grocery store or a friend of a friend, and just follow that path. But when you have trained individuals who are leading you down the path, telling you which members of the team are important, you're able to make a more informed decision when you get to the lending table and they're telling you the mortgage product that you should be using, instead of you being able to be educated and saying, well, actually, I'm here today because I know I'm eligible for the 1+ Boston, or I know I'm eligible for the 1 mortgage. That gives you buying power. And sometimes lenders are not informed about these mortgage products. So you being educated allows for you to, get to the table and have those conversations and let it be a dialogue instead of a lender telling you you're either approved or not approved. And I always say, don't take no for an answer. You'll have the support, you'll have resources available to you to be able to make real strong decisions about your home buying journey.
Yes, definitely. So many have made the mistake of doing it alone, doing it by yourself. And we don't want you to do that. At the end of the day, this is a huge investment, not only in yourself, but also in your future, your kids, your generation to come. Because again, the wealth gap has existed for us because of the fact that we have not been able to build equity. Because the idea of being able to hold a property, live in it, hold it for several years or even decades, and be able to pass on that wealth to your kids, a bulk of it, if you're married, $500,000 tax-free, and if you're single, $250,000 to $250,000, that's my tax personality coming out. But there's so many great benefits, and that's why when I sit down with someone and I'm trying to encourage them to purchase a home, I say, don't make the mistakes that I've made. You need to go and find a team that can help you, guide you. Go to the first-time home buyer class, make sure that you follow certain protocols and build relationship. I love the fact that you mentioned that you are part of a cohort, you're not by yourself, because you can pick up the phone and say, Marie, you are in that class. I heard you, did you hear what I heard? So let's collaborate. What are you doing right now with your home? It's very important to be part of community. I don't know how much I need to say that. My message for Let's Talk Money with Friends, that's what we call our guests friends, not guests, because of the fact that we believe in community first. If you're gonna be living in Boston, you better know what's going on in Boston. And the only way you're gonna be able to be aware is if you plug in to the community, and vice versa, wherever you're at. So I would encourage you, if you're not in Massachusetts, find a local organization like MAHA in your state, if you're watching from out of the country or out of the state, to help you to that process, because we know housing is an issue, right? Housing, the high cost of housing, it's high in California, it's high in Texas, it's high everywhere. Maybe some other states that I don't know, it's high everywhere. So if you decided, you and your family, after paying rent for many years, high rents in Boston now, the average 2-bedroom can go to, what is it, $2,500? So that money you could put towards a home, buying a home. So there are ways for you to do it, but you definitely have to do it the right way. Do not make the mistake that some of us have made by going on our own and calling someone via the internet, or a stranger who told a stranger, and then you don't have the right resources that you need in order for you to buy, in order for you to find, finance, and keep. We want you to find a home that you love. We want you to finance it properly, and we want you to be able to keep it. Do you have one last word for us tonight?
Yeah, you know, I often hear participants talk about, well, I was only approved for 300,000. I was only approved for 400,000, or I was only approved for this amount. Only approved mean that's all that you're affordable, that you can afford, right? And so I don't want folks to take that lightly. I know the prices of homes are beyond those numbers, but you want to make sure that you're able to pay that mortgage payment each month. You know, people go into multifamily saying, oh, my tenant is going to pay my rent. Well, in COVID, we found a lot of homeowners that were actually without that rental income because their tenants lost their jobs, and they were responsible because the home buyer is the person that's making that commitment to the bank, and that's the only person that they're expecting a payment from, a payment paid in full each month, no partial payments, right? So it's just really important for participants who are thinking about home ownership to make sure that they're able to afford it. In today's home, the home that you might buy that you can afford doesn't necessarily have to be your forever home. Correct. You know, you can get into a home, get the assistance that you need to get into a home, live in a home for a couple of years, build your income, right? The point is to be able to do better than you were last year. Everybody's goal should be to be a better person than they were yesterday. You know, there's no competition. I don't want people to get distracted or feel discouraged by, you know, other people on Instagram and on Facebook with their, you know, their keys in hand, right? Your time is your time when your home, you know, the home that is for you is out there and is destined for you. And so that time will come. But just make sure that you're securing a mortgage that you can afford, that you know your family can afford, and that you're not house poor. Nobody wants to be working 80 hours a week and only sleeping 2 hours in their home. Enjoy that home, enjoy it with your family, and be inclusive.
Yeah, definitely. And quickly, we don't want to forget to mention the lottery system, because I know I always say, like, if you're in Boston, it's so difficult because it's so expensive. And you said, like, well, you know, perhaps you might be lucky and get chosen for the lottery.
Yeah, so there are lottery homes out there. So it's basically income restricted homes that are applied through a housing lottery system. And so you do have to apply for these homes. You can go on to boston.gov. There is a link in the middle of the page called signing up for the Metro list. And it basically sends you an email of homes that are affordable based on area median income. So it could be rentals are also on that page, but also lottery homes. And so Mass Access is also another website that gives you access to lottery homes. And basically what they are below market rent homes. And so market rent might be a $500,000, $600,000 home, whereas a lottery home might be within the $200,000, $300,000, right? And so they are deed restricted, which means that they have to be affordable for the life of their existence, but that's really only to be able to help the next person. So you would never be able to buy a home at $250,000 and then sell it for $850,000, right? That house has to be affordable, and the next person that takes that home on or purchases that home does have to be able to meet that affordability requirement. So it's a great way to get into home ownership. It's a great stepping stone from renting to home ownership. And then maybe from there, an individual can have saved enough money or have been working, got a better paying job, and then is able to then buy a market priced home. So thinking about stepping stones, thinking about what's available, and again, just considering what you can afford now is so important. And, you know, we got to live within our means, right? And so sometimes these lottery homes do allow for participants to live within their means and acquire them. They're by chance, right? So pray about it, apply for one. You still need a pre-approval to apply for a lottery home. So you still want to work with a lender that offers, the one mortgage or the 1+ Boston. And those are the best mortgage products in the state. So, being qualified for one of those, applying for the application, and, you'll just see what happens. And those lottery homes are across the state. They're not just tied to Boston. Lottery homes are, there's some in Milton that's being built. There are many in Boston. There's also many in other suburbs where they're building 40B homes. And so, and I also would like to just say that, affordability does not mean poor, right? If there's a lottery home, it's because they want to make sure that folks that can live in it can be sustainable living in that home. Not everyone has the same income, right? And so a lottery home is one way to achieve home ownership.
Correct. But you will only know about the different options and options that are available to you by going to an organization like MAHA. So again, tonight, if you're a first-time home buyer or a first-generation home buyer, you don't have anybody to guide you, a parent who can guide you, you definitely, even if you had a parent who could guide you, you definitely want to go have a conversation with a MAHA counselor and let them know about your dream of home ownership. We want it to be a dream, not a nightmare. So definitely you need to do that tonight. We're gonna attach all the information that we know you need in order for you to reach out to the organization for help. So thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you. Please share this information with your friends and family. You do not want them to experience the nightmare that I know some families have experienced because they went about buying a home quietly without any support, and then they ended up losing everything, the down deposit, the deposit, and also their homes. You want to give your friends and family members this opportunity to know about this great organization so that they can buy the American dream, not the nightmare. So thank you so much for your time. Please share, tag, and make a comment and let us know how you feel about this program. And if you have any ideas that you would like to share with us so that we can discuss here on the show, please feel free to do that as well. Thank you so much.